Well, hello. Um, got a couple more things to share here. It's about, I woke up this morning around 1 o'clock a.m. Um, out of a nightmare. Yeah, I just woke up out of a nightmare. Uh, Something that happens frequently. My nightmare was about me running from the police. Um, Not because I'm bad or, let's see, or because of something I may have done. No, it's just because of the sheer terror and fear that the police invoke. It's just like a terrible dream a kid would have after being tormented with stories of the boogeyman or someone that, or a movie that they had watched on TV. It's just absolutely terrible. Every time see a police car or uh, I'm close to the police, I don't want anything to do with them. Now, uh, I'm not the toughest guy in the world anymore. I'm getting older now. So, of course, there are some bad people out there, and I would need some protection as well. But with the current situation, um, it's a little less than a coin toss uh, of whether you're going to receive justice from the police or not. I'd say most of the time a person is not, especially an African American male. Yeah, so I just woke up from a nightmare, just running from the police, anxiety. And it's not the first time this has happened to me. It happens quite often, in fact, at least once a week. So, with that said, I would like to say something to my brothers, my dear white people. Uh, Please do not give up on us. It's happening again, just as it has in our history. We'll stand up soon. Uh, the problem is right now, the Democrats have got many millions of us blinded. You know, they're taking one knee, kneeling, marching, saying the slogans, even tolerating the cop free zone. This puts President Trump out on an island by himself. I feel so sorry for the guy. Uh, they'll do anything to harm him. So if you would just continue your efforts, it's like before during the Civil War. Um, just imagine if the slaves would have rose up as well as a mass, as a whole, and would have fought along, created another front for, the war effort during the Civil War. But they didn't because of the very same things that are going on now. Uh, they've got everybody hating President Trump. You see, uh, I'm not saying that President Trump is the all go-to guy and things like that, but certainly we've already been down the other road. Uh, Many of us don't know the history of the Democratic Party. I know that the Republican Party has had some things to do with it as well, with injustice as well, but people are not aware of the policies, especially the recent ones, the eugenics and things like that, that the Democratic Party supports. um, I don't see the Democratic Party standing up saying that they're going to take unshelf, take down, knock the dust off of President Lincoln's Reconstruction plan. You know, let's take a look at that again. When they start talking about real things instead of just going through the motions and putting up symbols, symbology, and all of this stuff, and start really talking about the issues. Um, not talking about the issues, but offering real solutions, the change, what the change is going to be. Then we can, myself personally, then I will be able to maybe listen to what they have to say. But as for right now, we're being manipulated. I mean, for one, like the thing that they're wanting land. They want land. See, what happened was during the industrial boom in the United States, um, the economic climate was manipulated to draw us into the cities. Um, so we sold and moved off our land during this industrial boom. Uh, it was wrong, and we find that we want our land back, uh, both blacks and whites want their freedom. And so they want to talk about reparations. I was listening to what the Tucker Carlson show. He's pretty peeved about uh, reparations for all black people, even the ones that immigrated here. Well, and he says they give no reason for it. And I'll give you one good reason to look at moving forward is that the ones that immigrated here uh, would just become another underclass. It'd be another black underclass if they weren't supported as well. And so, yeah, we'd be um, kind of having enjoying some type of privilege above them, because certainly I know they make money and things like that, but it will soon come to an end. So the reason for reparations for all uh, people, and you think about the history of it, what the United States has done in Nigeria, how it basically keeps this the Americas. I forgot the name of the Monroe Doctrine, I think it was called. I'm not sure about that. But you know, Europe needs to stay from over here. Asia needs to stay from over here, and this is the United States sphere of influence. And so, but that's neither here nor there. Uh, but like I said, if we go ahead and get those reparations, which I don't know exactly what that should be, but we don't want to create another underclass of people. And it's like this: when we're faced with the police, when black man, I say black man, but it's whites too. It's whites too, and I wish that I could get people to understand that. Maybe less so. I heard a lady talk. She said she was beautiful, blonde, and she was a chick. And so she'd be treated much better by the police than many others, which is true, which is true to a certain extent. But still, though, she could become victim as well. You can't say that no blonde, beautiful women have never been harmed by the police. So yeah, the police they're out on the street. You got to understand the fact that they when you come in contact with them, they act as judge, jury, and executioner. Uh, and that's tough. They can say what they want. They can construe the situation any way they want to their superiors. And so, uh, and then once this all happens, there's more calamity that's going to follow. It's not just that then you go to jail, you lose work time, you lose money, you have to pay money, penalties and fines. You you go to jail, and if you're innocent, uh, you're just sitting in there until your court date if you can't bail out. It's funny, you know. And the only thing that you can do to prove your innocence is stand up in court and say I didn't do it, and that it's not a fair system, you know, for a person not to be able to show that they're innocent of wrongdoing. You don't have any access to any law library on any kind of consistent or sufficient basis. And even if you did, people study for years and still don't come out with a total, complete working knowledge of the law. So uh, many times the situation is not about uh, just legalities, it's about the truth. One thing that's really not a high priority. Um, the truth is. Now, I live in South Bend, Indiana, and a terrible, tragic thing happened to me. There was this guy, his name was Derek Dieter. Derek Dieter. He was a police on the South Bend police force. Uh, Later served on the Common Council and just won some type of election, I think, for some position. But anyway, he wrote a police report on me that was a lie, total lie. A person, anybody in their right mind could read the police report and say, wait a minute, this is something out of a Marvel comic book or something, you know. This is some type of absurd story. When I first read it, I laughed because I was like, oh, this doesn't even make sense. Well, no, I was led into pleading guilty for what? Reprieve from throwing myself at the mercy of the court or what have you, because they were going to proceed with the words of this police officer, Derek Dieter, as if they were the truth. Put me on trial. And I had no way to prove my innocence, and no money to buy a lawyer. Uh, no lawyer around here could take the case because they would be ostracized from the community, their peers, to do something like that, to show up a person of this stature and in the community. Uh, this police report caused the destruction of my family. We're still dealing with it today. Uh, it was just awful. It is just awful. Uh, there's seemingly nothing that I can do about it at this point in time because, uh, well, I want you to know. I want his peers to know. Uh, I want the world to know about what Derek Dieter did to my family. So, if you sat there and you read the report, no one would believe what was being said there. Uh, that's the reason why uh, the police force has to come down. It has to come down. It needs to come down. At one point, it's gonna come down. all empires fall at some point, except for Great Britain. They had sense enough to reform. They're the only nation that did not have a revolution, so to speak, because they reformed what they were doing. And so, I mean, I heard on what, like I said, Tucker Carlson show, they're talking about one bad apple or bad apple, speaking about the cops, the police, or whatever. Uh, you got the bad apples in there. And now all of a sudden, they're acting as if they don't remember that one bad apple sullies the whole bunch. Unless you take and clean it up, you might as well just throw it out. You can't call them a bad apple and then say that the police they have bad apples and think that the rest of the apples are going to be okay. It just doesn't work that way. There's bacteria that begin to grow on an apple, and just the slightest touch can contaminate another apple. Just the slightest touch. And so, if you want to run that reference as bad apples, you might want to try a different one, because one bad apple will ruin the whole bunch. That's been known for a very long time now. So uh, uh, maybe you want to think about using some other analogy. uh, well, that's it for right now, and I appreciate you paying attention to what I had to say on these particular matters. And you all have a good day.